Which is a really good time, in actual fact, to introduce our next guest. I'm sorry about that. Who's apparently not very well. He's got the flu or something. So we'll catch up with him in our letter from Wellington. Councillor Tony Randle. Are you not well, Tony?
No, I've got myself a bit of bronchitis, and so bad weather and cold, and probably answering too many emails.
You can't get bronchitis answering emails. You make me laugh. But it's not a laughing matter. And you can't laugh, I know, because you've got bronchitis. I'm sorry about your throat. I've had that as well. It's very unfortunate.
I'm okay.
You're right?
Yeah, I'm okay. I went to the doctor. He said I'm over the worst of it, and just in case the audience, can bear with me if I have to cough occasionally. But anyway, no. Look, things in Wellington, life is continuing on in the same vein as it was continuing on. And if you want to know the latest update, we can have a bit of a chat.
We will. I'm just before you go there. You went to the doctor. I go to the doctor all the time too. I think it's our generation, Tony. I get annoyed when I leave without something. Did he give you any medication at all, or did he just say, "Oh, you're over the worst of it"?
He didn't.
No, you see, I get annoyed about that.
He said, yes. Normally we would give you. Or in the past, we would have given you antibiotics, to get on top of it, but we don't think that works so well anymore, and you're over the worst of it anyway. So here's some inhaler stuff to calm things down and go on.
Here you go.
So sort of
Why did I go there? I know. You always feel a bit silly leaving.
Yeah.
And here's my $60 or $70 to arrive here. Yeah, I know. My commiserations with you, mate. I do it all the time myself. Hey, first of all, I've interestingly, I read in the Post, I think, and you're prominent in it, very nice photo of you, that you may, in actual fact, be having to do, your long-term plan all over again. Is that right?
Yes. So we talked last time about not selling the airport shares, and when we talked to officers about saying, well, let's just stop selling the airport shares, and this is led by some Labour councillors, in particular Nuruddin Abdurrahman, and they have totally opposed the sale of airport shares, and we've just talked about this before, but the council advice says that we can't just stop the airport shares. We have to redo the long-term plan because they have to cut other spending if we don't sell the airport shares. I mean, essentially we had an insurance fund, an extra bit of debt headroom, an extra bit of borrowing capability, and when they sold the airport shares, they also spent that money. And so they have to unspend this money that they're using and make decisions on what they're not going to spend money on. And so, but from my perspective, that's all good news. We spend far too much money anyway. So, but it does mean we have to redo the whole long-term plan. And this is causing, of course, quite big ructions around the council, having already spent 6 months going through all of that in the first half of this year.
Oh, that's massive. So let me get this right. How much was the sale of the Wellington airport shares going to give you? About 500 million or something, is that right?
Well, people get banding around different numbers. The number that the mayor's used most recently is 400 million. That's what they're worth. And so her point is that, well, if you don't sell the airport, we're going to cut the spending, the capital program, by 400 million to re-establish that extra bit of borrowing, as a rainy day fund.
Yeah, but why don't you just say, well, we won't have a rainy day fund, and that's as simple as that?
Well, I think that we spend too much anyway, and if we have to, I'm sorry, I'll be first in the queue to say, well, if there's a choice between cutting the spending on cycleways and not having a rainy day fund, I'd rather go with the rainy day fund, mate. Because something bad's going to happen to Wellington. We need to be able to borrowing capability to fix the city after a big cyclone or an earthquake, and so that's what that's for. And to me, there are still some. We're going to spend over $110 million on this new zero waste green recycling thing. I'd say no. That it's actually making sure the city's safe after an earthquake is much more important than that. Let's just get the knife out and chop that bit. And so that's what's coming up, and that's a decision that's easy for me, but it's going to be much harder for some of those people who don't want to sell the airport shares.
Wow. I mean, that's massive, actually. If you have to redo, did you do a 10-year plan or was it an annual plan that we're talking about here? Is a 10-year plan, was
It's
it?
a long-term plan. No, we have to redo the long-term plan. Now,
So that means you've got to go through the whole consultation procedure and everything else again, but you'd have to do, you're absolutely right, you'd have to do your numbers again too, wouldn't you? And you'd have to say, oh, what are we going to chop, what are we going to go ahead with, what we're not going to do.
Yes, but the other thing we found too, and this is the other bit of essentially bad news, is that we've learned more about how much it's going to cost to fix the water. And we've got to set up this new water entity. And so we were always going to do a long-term plan amendment to set up this new water entity to fix our pipes. So it's not like we're doing it cold. We're just adding this onto something else that we were always going to do. But the new water entity looks like it's going to need to take a lot more money anyway. And so that's also going to be another huge pressure that we're going to take into account.
Yeah, no, amazing. Listen, the other thing is that I understand the New Zealand Herald, which is odd to me. In fact, it's really odd. I'll explain it to people. The New Zealand Herald has done a map of Wellington showing how much the rates will be in various suburbs in Wellington, and it's an interactive map, so you can sort of plug in your own house or something like that, Tony, and find out what you'll be paying by 2028. And their essential thesis is that your Wellington rates bills are projected to increase by $3,000 a household by 2028, which is massive. And this is 50% higher than what ratepayers are currently paying. I didn't realise you're paying up to $6,000 on average too. That's incredible as well. Now, why? Can I ask the obvious question? Why did the New Zealand Herald, which is a enterprise based in Auckland, do that for Wellington? Isn't this something that the Post would if they were going to do it, would do?
Oh, the Herald's has got a couple of Wellington-based reporters, notably Georgina Campbell, who's the lead on this, and they have a Wellington edition essentially, and they're a party just like the Post to or Stuff, if you like, to drive to promote news about Wellington City. And they've done this exercise, which I think is a very useful exercise, to say, let's not forget, let's just not worry about 1 year's worth. Let's look, 3 years here at the end of the long-term plan. Where are we at? And the fact is, 50%. I had a 21% rates increase this year, and then I've got another 50% to take care of, in the next 3 years. It's simply, or 4 years, sorry, next 4 years, and it's an enormous amount of money. And people we've never had so many emails from people who are struggling to pay their rates, and yet this is not the end of the story. If they think it's bad, it's getting worse. I mean, we're going to a dark place when it comes to money, and so the cost pressures. The funding pressures from Wellington is generating for the city is just staggering. And of course, the regional council was also on a similar path, and their rates went up over 20% this year, and to fund all their trains and things like that. So it's just an enormous amount of money, and I'm just wondering, when's the penny going to drop? That we can't afford it.
Well, can you? I mean, all you well-heeled, educated, well-paid public sector people in Wellington. Can you actually can you afford it, though? Because you're probably paid better than the rest of us. I mean, I'm not being facetious, but, your average salary in Wellington?
We're the highest average salary in the country. Oh. You're 100% right, but there's huge swaths of Wellingtonians who aren't that wealthy. We've got a lot of Wellingtonians who are still living on the basic superannuation, and, there's nothing particularly special about Wellington in that, except, they're looking at spending perhaps a third of their entire income on rates. Just to live in their house, they may have saved up and over their lifetime, and they've retired and paid off everything so that they can live on a limited amount of money. And then, of course, we're taking away the money, taking away this enormous amount of money for doing fixing the pipes, yes, but also doing a lot of other things. And this is why these two things together actually help each other. We do have to relook at the long-term plan, and we are going to look at the long-term plan.